To learn about the off-grid lifestyle and to be inspired to live your dreams, click subscribe so you don't miss anything. Hit the bell notification. So I'm back at the tiny house build again today. I don't know, I need to find a new intro considering that's all I'm doing anymore. Okay, so as I've been doing for the last 2 days, I've been hanging insulation, and quite honestly, I've been kind of taking my time. I've been kind of busy this week with other things, doing chores and grocery shopping, and I also had to do some online work, so I don't get to spend a lot of time up here this week. Hopefully that'll change next week. Next week I'm going to try to order the metal roofing material for the roof and the sides of the house, the siding. Then I'll be back to moving pretty quickly, I think, because I think that's going to go pretty fast. People I think I'm going to order it from says it's only going to take 3 days to ship, so I'll be working on that hopefully before December starts. And the weather is still holding out. We're doing pretty good. It's getting cold at night, but it's warming back up throughout the day. Right now I think it's 10:30 and I think we're in the low 40s, so it's manageable. It'll be nice once I get the metal roof on. I can start firing up the wood stove, but I got to be careful that I use wood that has a moisture content of less than 20%, so I'll be splitting the wood and checking the moisture before I put it in there. Then I can work up here in the wintertime while it's still warm. That's why I want to get the outside done. I want to get it done before it gets too cold. Okay, so yesterday you saw me putting up these corner boards, and I was using scrap material to do that. And the point of this board right here is so when you put your drywall up, it has something to nail onto. And so you'll have drywall coming this way and then drywall right there. Well, I got to do the same thing to the ceiling. I got to put a corner board, or whatever you want to call it, right here at this lip here. So here's the rafter or the truss, and it'll come over here. So I got to put a board that comes right there. I bought a 12-foot 2x4, just one. Now, of course, I got to do two. I wanted to buy 2x2s, and that way, because it would have been cheaper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the 12-foot 2x4 that I got in half. Now, I know what everybody's going to say. Oh my goodness, a 2x2 isn't strong enough to work. You're not going to be able to make that work. It'll sag right here in the center of the ceiling. Yeah, you're right, it will. 12 feet span for a 2x2 is a long stretch. But what I'll do is I'll put a piece of scrap right behind the 2x2, and I'll screw that 2x2 into the scrap. That will give it support in the center. You know, I'll do a couple, so it's nice and strong. Now, the reason I couldn't buy a 2x2, which would have been cheaper, buying two 2x2s would have been cheaper, but the hardware store that I went to just down the road didn't have any. So I went with the 2x4. It cost me $8 for the 2x4. While I was up there, I should have showed you something else that I got to do. In yesterday's video, I was telling you how I lived in a 100-year-old home I bought back in 2000. And I would tell you, the draft, you would have thought the draft in that old house, the draftiness and the cold and the breezing, you'd have thought there'd been bugs coming in the house, as focused as I was on it. But these little things right here, I'm sure you can see the light coming through. This is underneath the truss. This is where the truss meets up with the house. That will have a breeze. Even though there'll be insulation here, that's gonna have a breeze. And it's gonna drive me nuts. And so I just as well get that sealed up today before I do any work, so I don't have that problem. Now, remember, there is house wrap on the outside of this place. So the house wrap will stop the breeze and the metal siding will stop the breeze a little bit. But believe it or not, that wind will find a way to get through, especially on the north side of the house, this side. Now, the north side doesn't have that gap that this side has. And that's the thing about these 2x4s is they're just a mess. They're wavy and bowy, and I got a few other things I want to seal up before I get the installation put up. And then tomorrow it's going to rain, so I can come up here again, work inside, and I can just finish up these little spots that I haven't gotten completed yet. Won't take a lot of time. I only get about an hour to work today. I guess I need to kind of hurry things up. I'll try to get the camera up there so you can see things, but it is a little dark. Now, the thing about caulk guns is there's a little trick that a lot of people don't know about. But there's a hole right here on every, well, I guess on most caulk guns, everyone I've ever seen, has a hole right here. And what you do is you stick the tip of your caulk gun there, you squeeze the trigger, and it cuts the tip. Now inside, there's a seal, so it doesn't come spewing out. There's a little jabby thing right here at the beginning of the caulk gun. You take in there and you just stab that, and now you can see there's caulk on the finger. That way you don't have to have a knife and a nail and all kinds of crazy things. Now yesterday the caulk was so cold, it was really hard to get out of the tube. So hopefully today it'll be a little better. I left this in the camper last night so it would warm up. So it should squeeze out a little better. Okay, now I'm going to cut my 12-foot 2x4 in half to make a 2x2. Now here's the thing, is a 2x4 is not actually 2x4, it's 3.5 inches. So that means I got to cut 1 3/4 inches. That makes center. So that'll give me my 2x2. I'll use a chalk line to go all the way down. The chalk line leaves a straight line from one edge to the other. Then I'll take my saw and cut this. This isn't so bad if you're just doing 1 or 2 boards, but I built a camper cutting every piece. So all the pieces in my camper, 2x2s, I had to cut. Oh, that is a miserable job. It takes forever. It's a 3-step process. You got to measure, chalk line, cut. Okay, so here's the 2x2 up against that rafter I was telling you about. Well, no, this is the wall. Now you should be able to visualize that this is going to come across to here. So my drywall will have something to attach to right here. Now also remember, I have an attic floor here. The problem with using a 2x2 for the attic floor is there's nothing here to rest on. This is too short now because I've used a 2x2. But my intention was never really come all the way out to this direction anyways. Insulation is going to be in the way, so I never really intended for this to be part of the attic space. So I may even close this off one day, just come straight up from this here, from this rafter up, and just close it off. That way there's no accidents of stepping on it, but keeping that in mind. So now the next step is I got to put a board behind this. So I got to attach a board from here and here. That way this thing, see how this sags? I need to take that sagging out of there. Now, the downside to using 2x2s is if you try to use screws in it, you'll break the wood. You always got to start a pilot hole. Okay, so now you can see that the wobble has been taken out. So that's enough support now to handle drywall. But again, you can't step on this. If you're going to do this regularly, you use a 2x4 so you could have a step. Okay, so you may see now that I got my 2x2s installed. So when I'm ready to put drywall up, I can. That also means that I can start putting insulation up on the ceilings, because there was nothing to tack it to before. So tomorrow I'll come up here and I can finish up my insulation in these little spots. There's just not a lot left to do. Then I can start on the ceiling. Now, as far as insulating the gable, I've had several thoughts about insulating the gable. And yeah, I'm gonna insulate the gable. Everything upstairs is gonna be insulated. So I'm going to insulate the ceiling, the roof, and the gable. So it'd be like an independent room all together, all by itself. We have no intentions of moving in this winter. We still got to buy pallet boards because we're not going to use drywall on the walls. So we got to buy pallet boards. That's $200. December, January time frame, we can start hanging up our pallet wood on our walls. And then this spring we'll move in. We still got to get the porch done, but we're not that big of a hurry with the porch. We want to make sure that we can move in. I've even asked Carolyn, do we move in without a porch? And she said, well, yeah, why not? It would be a little bit more difficult because we're going to have a stove out there. So as long as during the summer, it's not such a bad deal. But if we were to move in here in the winter, it would be a little bit more complicated to cook and different things. So I hope I can inspire you to do a little bit each day to accomplish your dreams. Thanks for watching.